Okay, namaste, Namo Ramana. Welcome to the Soulful Silent Sunday Satsangs of Shree Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi. So, this is a platform where we meet once in a month and we read, we share, we interact, engage with each other on the teachings of Shree Bhagwan Ramana. We contemplate, we go deeper, we inspire each other. So, it's basically like an interactive platform, and the meeting is of 1 hour and is split into three parts. In the first part, we try to do readings from books that are relevant and related to the subjects of Arunachala and Shree Bhagwan. In the second part, we try to have some kind of an interaction amongst each other where we want to hear some natural experiences of how we connected to Bhagwan, how we feel about him, what are our experiences of in our journey being so far with him. And then we actually, in the end, we have an immersion into some form uh, of a bhajan or some kind of an audio where we are able to get into the laya of that music and nada are basically very calming and very connecting to the energy consciousness of that particular form or deity or consciousness that we're trying to tap into. So we hear some bhajan or some kind of music. And then the last part, we immerse into silence. So silence is the main and core teaching of Sri Bhagwan. And self-inquiry, silence, and surrender. These are like bhakti and jnana are the core tenets. And for those who are able to do the self-inquiry method, that is considered to be the most direct path. And for all advanced sadhaks, that is it may be the steepest one, but it's like a moment to moment remembrance of going within and remaining as the observer of our journeys. So today we are going to be reading, two of us are going to be reading from books related to Bhagwan. I'll be doing the first reading. So another thing before I start is that today I've placed these crystals for Sri Bhagwan, and really want to show this beautiful rose quartz ball that I use all the time for my meditation. So rose quartz crystal is a very calming energy stone that actually opens the heart chakra to a lot of compassion and pure love. So I feel that we need, like in our urban times, that we are always running around and, we are worried about things. And it's like we're holding on to some things as just being possessions that we own. We're not really open to sharing with others. So I use this for heart openings, and I really find it to be very, very, like blissfully very heart opening. That's what I'd say. I'm just showing you some crystals that I have offered to Bhagwan today. This is a clear quartz gift that I received recently from someone. It's a very beautiful crystal for calming, healing meditation and crown chakra openings. So, holding the crystal in your hand, receiving its energy, and paying your gratitude is something that allows crystals to interact with us like living beings and assist our journeys. This is another very beautiful crystal that I just received 2 days back. And again, very good for intuitive channelings and deepening of meditations. So today, all the new crystals are right and first often offered to Sri Bhagwan before being used for anything further. Okay, so I'm going to be reading from the book Conscious Immortality. This is the book, sorry, it's covered, but it's a beautiful book that I've been reading for quite some time. It's the second time that I'm reading this book in my life, and I think that every page, every word is imbued with so much wisdom. Is like it's like it's like an every word is like an awakening in itself. So it's not really about the quantum of reading that you do, or that you have to complete a book and then you can just say that you've finished it and you got it all. But the nature, the way that Bhagwan's books have to be approached, what I feel from my own personal experience, is being able to read little, but able to do manan and dhyana on the words, on the little words. So it's not about receiving quantums of some kind of spiritual information download and then, not applying it anywhere or not even absorbing it or not even having the pause to immerse in it. So the best way to grasp on Bhagwan's any book is to just take up any book. All books are beautiful. Talks with Ramana Maharishi is one of the core books which can be read by anybody and can be started. So those are actually interactions between devotees and Bhagwan in his lifetime. They asked him questions and he answered. So that's a very good book. So it's not about reading a lot. You can just read one question answer in the day, but a daily practice of reading Bhagwan's words really bring you to that, like they'll act like the inner compass of your life. So when you're feeling like distorted in any way, you just go back, just open the book and read one talk. And coincidentally, Bhagwan's grace has always enabled this for me, that whenever I'm seeking a certain answer to my own life question, I just open the book and I get the exact right message at the right apt time. So that is how grace works. It's not about strategizing on how to tap it, but it's only about opening yourself to receiving it. Okay. So these question answers are related quite a lot to meditation, because I think that a lot of us actually meditate and we have different methods of meditation. But what are Bhagwan's point of views on meditation? I'm reading that. So somebody asked Bhagwan, the questioner asked that I cannot bring my mind to meditate. So Bhagwan says, an elephant when free puts its trunk here and there and looks very restless. If a chain is given to it, the trunk holds it without being turned this way and that, as before. In just the same way, the mind is restless if it has no aim. If an aim is fixed, the mind is restful. Concentration is impossible so long as there are samskaras. They obstruct bhakti also. Practice and dispassion are necessary. Dispassion is the absence of diffuse thoughts. Practice is concentration on one thought only. Firm perseverance is also necessary. The one is positive and the other is a negative aspect of meditation. Yes, our minds are weak. The help called grace is necessary. Service to the Guru is only to obtain that. In the presence of a strong minded soul or a Guru, the weak mind comes under control more easily. That which is grace. There is nothing else. This is from the talk 287 from Talks with Ramana Maharishi. So that which is grace. Such a beautiful and simplistic way to define grace. So grace is ever present. It's not something that just goes and comes. It's not like in a flux. So sometimes we do more sadhana, we do more meditation, and then we feel that we are more in the orbit of grace. And then when we are not doing it, we seem to be somehow out of it. But that is not how grace is working for us. Grace is always and ever present. So the if the, only that can be the truth which is eternally present, that doesn't just wax and wane. So we need to trust that even when we are not in our best self, but still we are always in the orbit and the ambit of grace. So the next question that was asked was, what is the best way to get rid of thoughts? So the answer is it the mind that tries to kill itself? How can the thief catch himself? It cannot be. So the best way is to try to realize your real nature, what you really are. When we see ourselves, then there are no thoughts to get rid of. So Bhagwan has totally squashed the question in which we are worried that, how will we meditate if we will have thoughts? So he says that there are no thoughts only to get rid of, because we are not the thought, we are the self alone. Then the third question asked was, how may the mind be controlled? There are two methods. One is to see what the mind is, then it subsides. And the second is to hold something else, and control of the mind comes therewith. Yoga serves to concentrate the mind. The predominant idea keeps off all others. The object is according to the individual. The next question asked was, how should we meditate? Should we keep our eyes open or closed? It may be done either way. The point is that the mind must be introverted and kept active in its pursuit. Sometimes, when the eyes are closed, the latent thoughts rush forth with great vigor. It may also be difficult to introvert the mind with eyes open, as that requires strength of mind. When the mind takes in objects, it is contaminated. The main factor is to keep off other thoughts and to keep the mind in its own pursuit without taking in external impressions or thinking of other matters. So then a question was asked, why should I meditate on the heart? So Bhagwan says, because you seek consciousness. Where else can you find it? Can you reach it externally? You have to find it internally. Therefore, you are directed inward. Again, heart is the only seat of consciousness. So, a lot of talk, a lot of focus, a lot of coming back to the heart is the message here. And one last question I'm going to be reading, and that is, on what should we meditate? So, Bhagwan says, who is the meditator? Ask that question first. Remain as the meditator. There is then no need to meditate. It is the sense of doership that is the impediment to dhyana. So many of us who've been even meditating for years are still trapped in the doership and, in that identity of being a meditator. So Bhagwan is reminding us to go back and question actually who is the meditator. There is nobody there who is actually meditating. So the sense of doership has to be given up in meditation. Only then it is actually meditation. Thank you very much. And I will now request our dear friend Sandeep, who is also helping me host these meetings every month. He's going to be reading for us from a book. Sandeep, please.
Good morning to everyone. I'll be reading from a book called Who Am I, which I think most of us are aware of it, as it is the core essence of Bhagwan. But today, when I was trying to understand which big book to read, this is what was guided to me. So I'm just going through that. Maybe it's a revisit for all of you. But as ma'am told, I think every revisit is going to give a perspective that's more closer to Bhagwan. So this book,
Sandeep,
Who Am I, was
your video is off. Can you just put that on, please?
one
And
minute.
show everybody the book also that you're reading.
Ma'am, the book
Okay, it's
actually,
in a
yeah,
PDF. Okay.
yeah. So this book is actually the 28 questions which were asked by Mr. Shiva Prakasham Pillai in 1902. And I will not be able to read 28 in a short span of time. So I will just go for the first 10 questions. I think they themselves have a lot of knowledge for us. So the first question was like when the Pillai met Bhagwan, he was in a state where he was not talking to anyone, mainly because he was not interested in talking to anyone. So that time, most of these questions were answered through gestures. So all the words that I'll read now are not mine; they are by the author, and whatever knowledge you get is also by Bhagavan. So the first question was, "Who am I?" So Bhagavan gestures to the seeker that the gross body, which is made of the dhatus, that is not me. And he says the five cognitive senses like our hearing, touch, sight, even they are not me. And then the five non-cognitive senses and cognitive senses like organs of speech, grasping, procreation, even that is not me. So, and then he says the five vital, like the prana, air, all those panchabhutas, even that is not me. I am not even the mind which is thinking right now. And also, I am not that ignorance in which all the impressions of our, memory, thoughts, everything exists. Even that is also not me. So next, the question was asked by the seeker, if I am not any of this, then who am I? So Bhagwan gestures telling that after negating all the above things which are mentioned as not me, neti neti as they call it, then comes the awareness. And this awareness which we receive post the rejection or elimination of all the things that we are not actually is what he says is what I am. So if the answer to who I am is, he says I am is that awareness, that you can call it as chit or whatever. So next the seeker asks the question, if I am the awareness, then what is the nature of that awareness? He says the nature of awareness is existence, consciousness, and bliss, which we know as Sat Chit Anand. So the seeker further dwells onto it and he asks, when will the realization of self be gained? So he says, when the word which is what is seen has been removed, there will be the realization of the self, which is the seer. Like what ma'am was telling while doing meditation, we have to remove the ego or the I point to know the true essence of meditation. So Bhagwan, gives us a guidance that when we are able to connect with the seer himself is when we remove the word around us. So the next, the seeker asks the Bhagwan, like, will there not be realization of the self even when the word is there, like the real word which we interact with our senses? He says there cannot be a possibility by you keeping your focus into the real word and realize yourself. So he asks, why is so? So then he gives that the most famous example of rope and snake, where you hold the rope and then you feel it's a snake actually. So he says, unless we take our focus or concentration behind the illusionary serpent, we don't realize that what we are holding is a rope. So the idea is here to remove your illusions or ignorances. So then the seeker asks, when will the word, which is the object seen, be removed? He says, Bhagwan says that when the mind, which is the cause of all cognitions and of all actions, becomes quiet, the word will disappear. So now the seeker has two questions in it. He asks, what is the nature of mind and how you can quiet the mind? So in the question of what is nature of mind, Bhagwan says mind is that power that is residing in ourself. It causes all thoughts to arise, and there is nothing behind thoughts that can be called as mind. So he says, therefore, the thought is the nature of mind, and apart from thoughts, there is no independent entity called the word. In deep sleep, we do not have thoughts, and there is no word. Only in the states when we're awake and when we're dreaming, there are thoughts, and there is a word also around our thoughts. So just as a spider which emits the thread of the web out of itself and again withdraws it into that web itself is the nature of the mind, what Bhagwan says, which is very beautiful if you analogically look at it. So when the mind comes out of this self, the web which has been put by itself, when the mind comes out of that web is when the word will disappear. Therefore the Bhagwan says the self does not disappear, because the self will always be there. The only the word has to disappear, and which means the mind has to quieten. So when one persistently inquires into the nature of mind, the mind will end leaving the self. What is referred to as the self here is the Atman. So the mind always exists in dependence on something gross. It cannot stay alone. It is the mind that is called a subtle body or soul, meaning what we think of soul higher and then mind is different. So Bhagwan here clarifies with his knowledge that the mind is the soul. So this one clarity will become critical when we will try to understand who am I. Then the question, what is the path of inquiry for understanding the nature of mind? Here the Bhagwan beautifully explains that which arises as I in this mind is the mind. If one inquires as to where in the body the thought I arises first, one would discover that it arises in the heart. That's why most of us are keeping our hand on our heart and saying I. That is the place of mind's origin. Even if one thinks constantly I, one will be led to that place. So, how will the mind become quiet? By the inquiry, who am I? The thought, who am I, will destroy all other thoughts, and like a stick used for stirring the burning pyre, like how we use a stick to increase the fire in the pyre. and the stick will eventually burn into it, and that's how, there will be rise in the self-realization. So this is the first 10 questions. What I have realized out of it is, like when we call yagna or homa or whatever it is, you have to become the very self process in the journey of, exploring who am I and making that self inquiry. You yourself burn into that knowledge of who am I, and that burning is the process of our sadhana that will eventually lead us to the realization of the self. This actually is very close to my heart because I personally in my life started with this question, who am I? And I wouldn't take the entire journey here, but I would say I have met Dr. Pallavi, who is one of the ambassadors of who am I. As a child, when I was in, I would say 4 years of age, my mom keeps telling I used to always go to Ramana Maharshi Park. So if, as ma'am says, grace is always there, it will embrace you when you are ready. So our only sadhana should be to be ready to receive the grace. I think the grace, as ma'am just educates me now and then, it has its own intelligence and it picks you up. No matter what ritual you do, no matter how much effort you put in, unless you are pure and clean within, I think the grace will take its own time. So I'll hand over to ma'am from there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, for such illuminating first 10 talks of the book Who Am I, which is the core teaching of Shree Bhagwan. The book is available in many, many languages, translated in many languages. It's a very small, thin booklet. It's available at Ramana Ashram Library. You can just write to them or go to their bookstore and order it there. It's a very thin book with just a few questions, and one may just wonder as to how this could be the core key to my own self discovery. But I guess that the even one question, if properly integrated and assimilated and absorbed, could be the turning point of our life. So the query of who am I is the primary purpose of our life. It's not about enhancing our life or self improving ourselves. That is not who am I. That is just the facade of trying to improve something which is already perfect. So it's like it's so simple, but yet it's so subtle that not many of us are able to grasp it. So, for those who cannot practice self inquiry, Bhagwan has been very, very kind in saying and suggesting that bhakti is the mother of jnana, and with pure surrender, with pure love, with simplicity, then also we can be at that self realization. So, thank you very much, Sandeep. And we also have Chitra Kotian with us today who would like to read from a book. Chitra, would you be wanting to read? I think you're a part of us here now.
Well, the book is not there with me at the moment.
Okay. So, would you like to share some experience or how you feel connected to Bhagwan? What inspires you?
Yes, ma'am. The very fact that, as I was listening to you all also, Sandeep sir just mentioned that who am I? So this keeps on coming through. So the very fact that his simplicity, we use when it comes to sadhana, there are many versions of sadhana. So the very fact that with simplicity he puts across his thoughts, so that is something which got me connected.
Wonderful.
His simplicity, because there are not many rituals which he follows. It's his simplicity which has
Yes.
probably brought that difference.
Can we also see you? Can you put your camera on, please? We'd like to see
Mhm.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's wonderful. So nice to see you, Chitraji.
Same here, ma'am.
Okay, so you're saying that in your own journey, you feel more connected to Bhagwan because of the simplistic way of
Simplistic approach,
yeah.
because there are not many rituals. When it comes to rituals, there are too many
Yes.
there are many rituals, or there are many set principles, but in his case it is the simplicity which embraces you.
How do you apply this in your daily life? How do you apply
I
Bhagwan?
am basically a banker. So
Okay.
just to tell you, life is full of being a banker. Life is full of chaos and a lot of distractions. So
Yeah.
his simplicity glues me on.
Very
So
nice.
whenever there is some situation which is there are because there is constant hustle bustle. So
Huh.
and there is constant demand and pressure. So when it comes to that particular situation, it is a simplicity which helps me take decisions.
Very nice. So next time, Chitra, you must do the book reading also, as you
Yes,
had
yes,
mentioned.
ma'am.
Oh,
Surely, ma'am.
okay. Thank you very
And
much.
you inspire me because I've been reading. I've been reading your blogs. I've been reading all your readings, ma'am. You are an inspiration. So somebody, because really, ma'am, with due respect to you, so it's your reading which inspires. Like him, ma'am, I feel that someday maybe if you can do it, so probably every woman can do it. So you are also an inspiration, ma'am.
Yes, all of us can do it. Why only
Huh,
women? All of us.
huh.
See, the seeking and the longing, if it's pure, then it happens to you. It just cannot
Yes,
deny you. Grace cannot deny you if you're
huh,
pure enough to receive it. So
yes,
the only thing that we need to do in our journey is to, clean sieve out the stuff
yes, ma'am.
so that we have a very still mind where we are able to just, it's like a flash. Realization
Yeah,
is not something that happens over time. It's like a flash, it hits you
yes,
just when you need it and you're ready and it's the right time. You're at,
yes,
you don't need methodology techniques, you just need to be aligned. That's what I'd
yes, ma'am.
say. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Chitraji.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And anybody else would like to share about their whatever they want to, how they feel about Bhagwan, how they got connected. And welcome, Paritosh ji. Would you like to share something about how did you get to know about Bhagwan? What do you know about his teachings? Anything?
So hi Pallavi,
Please put on
I'm
your
in a car.
video. Please put on your video. We want to see each of us who are participating. Yes, thank you.
Pallavi, I'm in a car going back from Bombay to Pune.
No problem.
So my connection with Bhagwan happened through a book, and for all my life, my longing was for freedom. And there is a line which Ramana says. He says that discipline is the only road to freedom, and that really set me thinking. And on the other line, which I think perhaps was very liberating for me from Bhagwan, I will call him Ramana because that's how I connect with him. So another line which really, really connected me with Ramana was somebody goes to him and complains about someone that person has done this and that, and how to deal with this other person. And Ramana simply says that there is no other. सो जैसे कबीर कहते हैं ना, प्रेम गली अति साकरी, इसमें दो नहीं हो सकते. तो yeah, that's the only thing I would want to share, and I'm here to be more silent and listen to the experiences. And gratitude to you for holding this space. Lots of love and light.
Thank you so much, Paritoshi, for in spite of your travel, you have just come and shared the most inspirational things for you in terms of your connection with Bhagwan. And discipline definitely is the expression of self-love. I'd say that if you are not disciplined, then you are not ready to be the recipient of grace. So there has to be the onus uh, of your own self-realization is not, it just cannot be piled on to Bhagwan or to any guru or to any deity like that. And just, like you could be free of things because you've put the bar. And so I don't do any kind of tapasya or any kind of, even like an effort of self-contemplation or a remembrance. Even if you don't want to do even that much on a regular moment to moment. Actually, self inquiry is not something you sit and meditate on for 2 hours in a day and that's the end of it. You don't do it on a couch. You don't do it on your yoga mats. It's like something that you live day in and day out of your life. So the prayasa means the effort has to be there. The disciplined effort of going within has to be a moment to moment reflex inside your system. So that is love. That discipline is an expression of the fact that you love yourself and that you're ready to receive the grace. That signal, at least, you need to send out to the universe. So wonderful. And Hitesh ji, we would like you to share at least few words. Last time you had done a very wonderful reading for us from Bhagwan's book, and you have been on Bhagwan's path for very many years. So can you share something, that some experience or some event in your life where Bhagwan just helped you, assisted you, or gave you answers at the right time?
Yes, Dr. Pallavi, thank you so much. And I think there is a light in behind me, so I will.
Yes, now it's better. Yeah, it's
Oh,
good.
it's back. Yeah.
Yes.
I would want to share something of my own experience in the very recent time. Now I was just attending a close family wedding. This is wedding season, as we all know.
Hmm.
So the last 5 days I was there in the wedding, and I had taken some work for coordinating the things and everything. And as we all know that in wedding there is a lot of things expected and lot of things to be done, and dealing with the people, dealing with even the logistics and so many things. So there again I see that now I think Sandeep ji jo bhi Who Am I, he had read, right? So उस उसमें भी जो उन्होंने मतलब the same thing comes to our rescue every time, that I am not this cognitive, this alertness or even intelligence, intellect. So जब भी वहां से if I start operating, I have noticed that I get all the answers to any of the challenges, any of the problems what we face day to day. Like in the last 4 days also, we had lot of things to be done, and lot of things was being expected, and at times it was not available, some of the resources. But still it was like for me, जब भी हम वहां से आते हैं कि who is doing this, ये करता कौन है, ये तो हम करते हैं, तो मैं कौन हूँ. When I am operating from there, automatically.
हितेश जी, आप म्यूट हो गए हैं बाय चांस, बाय मिस्टेक.
Audible.
Yeah, now you are. Yes.
Yeah, I got it. So resourcefulness इतना मिल जाता है, और when we have that calmness of when we are self composed, so uh, that is something I would I'm always grateful to Bhagwan's teachings and my great guru Bhagwan. And here also, the last time I missed to tell you that, to share this our all the participants, that I was introduced to Bhagwan through my guru, and my guru is Sri Hazare ji. He's a very good musician also, and I came into his contact. And today he's not in his body; he just left for the heavenly abode. In 2020, before the COVID started. But I'm always grateful to him, because he was the person who taught me a lot. और जैसे हम लोग अभी ये जो सत्संग करते हैं, हम दिन भर करते रहते थे, हफ्ते में 3 बार मिलते थे, and I had lot of exposure and to the teachings of Bhagwan. So yeah, that is something I would want to say. Thank you so much for giving me some time.
Thank you, Hitesh ji, for sharing such wonderful experiences of application of the teaching of Who Am I, and also about your personal grace of how your own guru has introduced you to Sri Bhagwan in your life. I think we are at 10:40, and I'm going to be sharing screen, and I'm going to be sharing a 15-minute video which is about the experience of Paul Brunton visiting Sri Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi, and how the questions that he was a journalist and he had many questions to ask of Bhagwan, and how what is the power of the silent gaze of Bhagwan? So that is the experience of how the questions evaporate in that grace. And this is around a 10 to 15-minute clip. And after that, we will enjoy some silence for a few minutes. So please don't leave until the meeting gets over. Sandeep, is my screen visible? The shared screen is visible. Sandeep?
Yeah, it is visible. I
Okay.
It's
can see.
visible.
All right.
The look that also you can practice. It is the look that where you're not a person, you're just a presence. I've been looking at this folder, it has questions in it. People submit lots of questions. So I will answer perhaps a few. And from tomorrow, we are open, or I am open to receiving questions from you that arise spontaneously, or that you've kept at the back of your mind for a long time, wanting to ask, and it still hasn't dissolved. It's beautiful, by the way, if a question dissolves that you've had, which means, well, you could still ask it, but it's no longer of vital importance. Sometime in the 1930s, a British writer went to India. I believe his name was Paul Brunton. He went to India to visit the living masters and interview them and then write a book about them. And he did. And one of the masters he visited was Ramana Maharshi, at the time not known in the West at all, and only to a limited extent in India. And so when he went in to see Ramana Maharshi with his list, a long list of questions for his book, and Ramana Maharshi just looked at him. There are some photos around with Ramana Maharshi looking at you, especially one that's very beautiful. So he just looks. You can feel when he looks, even on that photo, he's not thinking whatsoever. There's no thought whatsoever in his mind. There's just spaciousness. But it's not a look of a zombie. It's presence, spacious presence. Well, you can have that now. Please just. There's nobody there looking. There's just consciousness. Nobody in particular, just consciousness. So it's not a person looking, and that's the energy transmission also happens in the right way. It cannot happen when a person is looking at you, because that means the looking happens through the veil of conditioning. That is the person, mental emotional conditioning. But here the looking comes straight from the depths of consciousness, unconditioned consciousness. So it's just the light looking. So Paul Brunton came to see into Ramana Maharshi's room, and Ramana Maharshi just looked at him. And suddenly Paul Brunton had no longer any desire to ask his questions. And they sat in silence together for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't remember. And Paul Brunton thanked him and left the room. That was the interview. This happened again a few years later, the famous British author Somerset Maugham visited India, and he had probably read Paul Brunton's book that in the meantime had been published, where he wrote very favorably about Ramana Maharshi, who was the one teacher that impressed him most. So Somerset Maugham came to experience the presence of this master, probably to write about him, because whatever Somerset Maugham did and whoever he met, he would write about them later. He continuously was collecting notes about, making notes about people. And just before Ramana Maharshi came into his room, it was so hot there, he fainted. And not Ramana Maharshi, Somerset Maugham fainted. They carried him into a room to put him on a bed there to regain consciousness. And then they told Ramana Maharshi, there's a famous British author who came to see you, but he fainted. And Ramana Maharshi said, okay, I'll go to where he is. And when Somerset Maugham opened his eyes, there was Ramana Maharshi sitting, looking at him. And again, no words were spoken, except, if I remember correctly, they looked at each other, and then Ramana Maharshi said something like, silence is the best speech. And that was about it. That was the meeting of the famous British author with the spiritual master. And of course, yes, he did write a book, and Ramana Maharshi appears as a character in that book. And although he doesn't, of course, under a different name as a master. And if you're interested, the book is called The Razor's Edge, a novel. But that is a look that also you can practice. It is the look that where you're not a person, you're just a presence. And when you look at a tree or the sky or a flower or another person, if that's not too difficult, if you look at them and there's no mind activity, just an underlying presence as the backdrop, so to speak, to your sense perception, then at that moment, you're not a person looking at the world. You are consciousness looking ultimately at itself, its own creations, because everything is consciousness that has taken a particular form, a temporary form. There's only the one underlying all forms. And in that looking, there's not only the absence of the person, there is also the presence of presence. And that means whatever you are looking at, you sense something that is deeper than the surface appearance of that thing that you are looking at. In the case of a plant or a flower, yes, there is the surface beauty of the flower or the plant, but there is also something that the eye cannot see. And there is a beautiful quote that is, I believe, from a book called, is it The Little Prince? Saint-Exupéry, is that the author? And there's a quote that says, what is essential is invisible to the eye. What is essential is invisible to the eye, this eye. it does not only refer to the visual sense, it also refers to all the other senses. So what is essential, the essence of things, of human beings, of yourself, of a tree, of a dog, the essence of the thing is you cannot see or perceive with the senses. So if you only perceive through the conditioned mind as the person, then all you ever see or perceive with the other senses is the surface, never the essence of that life form. So what is essential is invisible to the eye. How can you become aware of that which is beyond the sense perception, that the deeper dimension of things, which for many humans alive now does not exist, and the majority of scientists would probably, there are maybe some exceptions, but Einstein was an exception, but the majority of scientists would probably deny that there is such a thing as a deeper dimension to things. But eventually they will come around. If not this generation, when this generation is dead, the next one will come around. So then you look at something, at a tree, a flower, and that presence of presence through which you're looking recognizes something of itself in that which you're looking at, and that is the dimension of depth. And that is where you feel connected, or a better word, where you feel that sense of oneness with that which you are looking at. No longer the separation. When you're looking through the conditioned mind as a person, there's always a sense of separateness. Whatever you're looking at is the other. There's always a sense of otherness. And that sense of otherness is the absence of love in the deepest sense. You cannot love the other in that state of consciousness. You can try, or you might convince yourself for a while that it's working, but it won't last. So to sense something deeper that is within, that is the essence of that life form, that adds a depth to all your perceptions. It's no longer a surface reality. Everything has a depth to it, and that depth in traditional spirituality is called sacredness. Find death before death finds you.
Okay, so I hope all of you have enjoyed this video of Eckhart Tolle, where he is speaking about how the silent gaze of Shree Bhagwan put an end to the questioning mind of Paul Brunton and to many of us who have intellectually wanting to wade our way through grace. But there is no other way than to be working or operating from the heart itself. And therefore, Bhagwan always looked at everyone as if they were him alone. There is no separation. There are no others. As Paritosh also shared, that this is one of the core things that inspired him, that how there is no duality, because there is no person who is actually experiencing the other. Both are the part of the same consciousness. So I hope that all of us will practice these silent gazes on on all that we meet and everything that we see. We will use the inner chakshu or the inner eye to be able to perceive more, and not just with forms, or not just as forms, but also as a fragment of our own selves. So thank you very much. And we need to be in silence for 6 minutes now. It's 10:54 a.m. here. So please don't leave the meeting. Just be silent and enjoy your connection with Shree Bhagwan. Thank you very much for joining. And thank you, Sandeep, for helping me host this meeting.